In this video, I'm going to share 12 things you need to know to successfully breed and hatch Corydoras catfish. All right, so number one is lots of food. The best food I can say is Repashy. What's nice about Repashy is you can put it into the tank and just let it hang in there and they'll chew on that as they need it. Another great one to help them breed is bloodworms. Bloodworms are huge for Corydoras catfish. I've never had a problem with them with my Corydoras catfish. And if I really want them to breed, between those two, usually gets that done. Now, I do supplement them with pellets, and they usually get my Discus pellets. A nice, cool water change. Now, I use soft water to breed my Corydoras. I know that's not necessary. Some of the more sensitive species prefer the soft water, but I just find I get better hatches in the soft water. And also my fry tank is soft water all the time, so for my rams and stuff like that. So I always keep that soft, and that's why, and I just noticed that if I put the soft water into the Cory tanks, they tend to breed a little easier. So cool soft water. Now this was a trick that I've used for a long time is for catfish is water movement. Yes, there's a sponge filter in this tank. It's on the other side, in the skunk side, but what I did is when I wanted them to breed, I put a heavy Airstone in, and that got that water circulating, and that really seemed to kick them into the next gear as far as wanting to breed. I noticed their activity went up too when the oxygen went in the water. So I think it's something that just helps as far as water movement, but also oxygen. Okay, so choosing males and females. The males tend to be a little slimmer and the females a little broader. I do have a video on that, on choosing Corydoras catfish. It was one of my first ones, so not very well done, but anyways, so one thing I noticed with these stir-bys are the females, you'll notice I call it a kickstand, and when they get so plump that they actually can't sit on both their pectorials, they kind of rock back and forth, where the males will tend to sit on those. So I just noticed that their bellies get nice and broad. As far as picking the males and females, not a perfect science, but really the males are a little more slim and the females are a little more broad. Okay, so hatching the fry Corydoras. So the stir-by do breed on the front glass, and they lay a ton of eggs on the front glass. And so I know a lot of people roll them off and then roll them onto the catch cups. I tend to just roll them and then kind of let them sit in the catch cup. I don't roll it back onto the side. It's just something personally I do, and you'll see why down the road why I do that. I do use Methlyne blue on my Corydoras. 2 to 3 drops for a catch cup is pretty standard for me. I try not to use it when possible. Now when I hatch my rams, I use it, but I use very little, like almost just dip something in and dip it in the water, so it's very light. Now they are in soft water, and I do use alder cones and peat inside the water, so that tends to have antifungal and antibacterial properties to it, so that tends to help too. But I just find I get better hatch rates with the Methlyne blue. So the reason why I don't put the eggs on the side is I want them kind of moving in the catch cup, so what I do is I put the Airline in. I don't use an Airstone, I use an Airline, so it's kind of a heavy bubble, but what that does is it causes a rotation into the catch cup, and you'll notice the eggs are just they're not rolling, they're not floating, but they're just kind of rocking back and forth, and that's what I want, because it tends to help as far as any fungal being able to attach to it. Where I notice if they stay on the side, personally, now this is personally, that I tend to get a little bit more fungus buildup on them. So I like them on the bottom, and I like to just get that airflow. Now you don't want so much airflow that they're kicking them up into the water column, because then they can really take a hit as far as going around and around in the air. So you just kind of want them moving at the bottom of the catch cup. All right, so hatch time, average about 4 days. Now I run my fry system at about 84 degrees, so it bumps up the temperature a little bit, and I can get them to hatch within 3 days. I like to accelerate hatching if I can, because then it tends to not have as much of a fungus or a bacteria issue. I just noticed that cutting time down on hatching by increasing the temperature. Now you don't want to go too hot, but mine are about 83, 84, and I can usually hatch those eggs in about 3 days. So it's crucial, when they start to become wigglers, you want to remove that Methlyne blue. Get it out as soon as possible. Now I literally do all of it. I want it all out. I don't dilute it or anything like that. I kind of remove the Methlyne blue because it's the same water, and then I put the soft water back in. So as soon as I start to see any kind of movement, I go through this process of getting rid of that meth blue because I don't want the fry to be exposed. It was for the eggs for fungal and bacteria issues. Feeding until you see that egg sac absorbed. Now, I use magnifying glasses. I wear glasses and then I put a light on. I take the Airstones out so I can really see. And then once I see that egg yolk kind of absorbed, I'll start feeding. Now, baby brine shrimp, you know me, I want that baby brine shrimp. Even if they don't eat it, that's fine. I want it in there. So once they start getting to that where they can start eating that, they're going to have that nutrition. But also ceramicron. But I also do grind up everything in coffee grinders too as far as my foods. It's just a little more cost effective. Now you're not going to get it really as fine as that micron. So that ceramicron is really the secret for me. But remember, with my system, I have circulating system here, so I really am still conscious of how much food I put in there. But as far as the baby brine shrimp, I just put it in there and let it sit in there. I let it go because it's alive for a while, and as it dies, it'll just chew on it. So, I do want to siphon any waste out as much as possible, but with that recirculating system, it kind of just is always driving nice fresh water into their environment. All right, so number 12, this is the big one. So back in the day, we didn't really have a lot of technology that we could use to, for our breeding, and we had to go kind of off of hunches and just visuals, but I still use that. But now that we have technology, I can actually go another level, and it can help me in deciding when fish are going to breed or when they're potentially going to breed. And I use it a ton for my discus. So one thing that I use, and you've seen it on another one of mine, is the barometric pressure. So I hope you can see that. But you can see how it's dropping. So that was from last week to this week. And then it's starting to climb, but it's still way down right now. But we're having a snowstorm, so it's going a little crazy. It's going up and down, okay? So this one's the barometric pressure. This one is a big one. So as that pressure drops, fish tend to breed. But not only that, I have... So obviously I can just look up in the sky and see this, but this kind of gives me some heads up where I'm at, and it gives me the moon phases. So if you'll notice that the full moon was like Wednesday, when was it? So it started on Tuesday, so Monday, right? So you can see the phases coming in. So on Saturday, I did a big water change, 50% with cool, soft water. And then Monday, I did a big water change, 50% cool, soft water. But what I was doing in between there was feeding a ton of rapashi and a ton of blundworms, shrimp, because brine shrimp sinks, they really like that. I was even putting in baby brine shrimp every day, right? So the water changes were crucial, not only for them to spawn, but also to keep the water clean because I was feeding so much. Because you want those females to get gravid, so you gotta pump them. And you're gonna think it's too much food. It's not. You cannot feed these guys enough food as far as breeders. And really, catfish don't get enough food, I believe, as it is. They're considered cleanup, and they're not. They're fish, and they need to be fed a certain way. So that's the problem, is you have catfish on the bottom and you got mid-water fish. The food, if it's lucky, can get past those mid-water fish, and the catfish are scraping for whatever's left. So they're not cleaner fish, they're not algae eaters, they're fish, and they need to eat just like that. Okay, so if you really want to understand how to take a space in your house and make money breeding fish, and understand that there's decisions that have to be made, and there's tank space, it's crucial, and if you have a little space, you have to really choose the fish you're going to have. So this is something that I go through constantly. In the last year, I've really kind of decided what I want. I have to be interested in it, because I'm not going to breed fish I'm not interested in, but it also has to be profitable, because I'm not going to spend my time choosing fish that aren't profitable, because it just doesn't make sense, the amount of time and money I put into this. So if you really want to understand more about choosing fish and how fish rooms evolve and change, watch this video right here. It'll explain, and you'll see the difference. This was just a month ago, and you'll see the difference from then to now, my fish room, how it's evolving. But really, some of the species that have moved out and some of the species that have moved in.